as well as LA County Fire as part of their CalARP unit, and representatives from Cal-OSHA. They can provide additional augmentation and also be available for question and answer too, to provide some additional feedback. Every speaker is going to introduce themselves. I'll do the same thing. I've been an engineer for a while. I got the gray hair to prove it. I got a couple of degrees under my belt, a couple of professional engineering certifications. I've basically been in the business of risk assessment since '83, facilitating HAZOP studies, which is kind of the core of what a lot of risk management professionals does as part of its overall activities supporting CalARP, PSM, and RMP programs. I've been facilitating HAZOP studies since '86. I've had the privilege of being involved in a number of pretty high-profile, very technically challenging projects, and I see as my mission and my career to help share some of these expertise and techniques to make sure people are applying best practices out there. There's a lot of publications that can help provide the support that you need to do the work yourself or make sure that you're complying with best practices. One of the things that you'll see when you look at the QR code in that website that was prepared, in addition to the presentations, there's also a link to our regulatory page where we try to keep easy access to a lot of the changing regulations, and also a link to a paper I presented just with Alex Mitilev just a few weeks ago at the Global Congress on Process Safety, dealing with all the changes that are out there with respect to the regulations. These things are readily available. Lots of materials and resources are out there to support your activities. So let's talk about where we're at. I like this slide because it keeps a perspective on things. Everybody in this room, whether you're a regulator, whether you're managing safety at your facility, we're all dealing with hazardous materials that have the potential to cause tragedies. When you look at the tragedies that have occurred in the past, a lot of them provide lessons learned that have led us down the path of recognizing the importance of safety management systems. When we look at a lot of these major accidents, in addition to the direct impact on our business, the tragedy with respect to human lives, when we start looking at behind the scenes and the root causes of these, they're relatively simple precursors and initiating events that have led to these horrible accidents. These are fairly easy to manage, and there's been safety management systems developed to do that. Safety management systems is a generic term for process safety management, risk management programs, and also the CalARP program, California Accidental Release Prevention Program. All of those are part of the universe of safety management systems, and they're all designed to address the root causes and the issues that have been seen in the past, but they're all performance-based. The idea is to minimize the potential for accidents. The idea is to provide a safe working environment for employees, and the idea is to have a good, stable operations for your facility. So when you look behind that, it's all about managing safety. And that was the core root cause of a lot of the issues that have occurred in the past. And as other things occur, people learn more. People learn more and want to apply it. And that's what we're looking at right now because with the dynamic regulatory environment. When we look at the history of things, Bhopal, India has woke people up to the importance of, or to the potential impact of hazardous materials facilities on onshore facilities. We've had a lot of evolution over the years that have led to PSM and RMP in the United States. When you're looking at offshore safety management systems, you probably recognize the Deepwater Horizon tragedy. Before that, Piper Alpha. A lot of things have occurred on offshore systems that have led us down the path where right now for offshore, you got safety and environmental management systems, or SEMS. Those things dovetail very well with PSM and RMP. When you're looking at outside the United States and offshore, you probably recognize the photograph of Piper Alpha. That also has led to the development of safety cases throughout the that are applied elsewhere throughout the world. So when you're looking at all these different programs, there have been a lot of common elements for management systems, and it's led us to the environment that we've got right now. The acronyms that you see on the screen: PHA, process hazard analysis; CA, compliance audits, contractor safety; operating procedures, emergency planning and response. All these are designed to address some of these core issues. When you look at safety and environmental management systems, it's pretty much the same core elements. So the root causes of all these different elements, whether you're looking at accidents that have occurred onshore in the United States, onshore elsewhere in the world, whether you're looking at offshore facilities, the United States or elsewhere, different regulatory environments, different types of facilities. It all leads down to the importance of safety management systems, and that's why we've got an environment that we've got right now where you've got a lot of these common elements that are applied elsewhere. So the overall theme of what we're looking at is the dynamic regulatory environment. What's been going on is lessons learned from some recent events that have occurred this decade. In the lower left-hand side, you probably recognize what was a factory over in the city of West Texas, where they were storing a number of materials for fertilizers and for agricultural use. Ammonium nitrate was a cause that for a problem dealing with emergency response, and a lot of lessons learned associated with that. We've found out this week that fire may have been intentionally set, but the overall emergency response, what's come out of that has been lessons learned in terms of feedback into safety management systems. On the lower right-hand side, you recognize the fire that occurred at the Chevron Richmond refinery. Both of those events have led us down the path where the regulators are looking at changes to CalARP, RMP, and PSM to really address a lot of the lessons learned from that. I'll be going over this in more detail a little bit later, but a number of agencies have been involved looking at the lessons learned. The TOPS Chemical Safety Board, right after the Chevron Richmond refinery event, they went through and they developed a lot of recommendations that were since picked up by the agencies in terms of updating the regulations. The Interagency Refinery Task Force, composed of a number of agencies primarily in California, Contra Costa County, the city of Richmond, with their industrial safety ordinances. CalOSHA has been involved, federal OSHA, federal EPA, and also the California Office of Emergency Services and also CalEPA have been all worked together to formulate the lessons learned from these events and propose updates to the regulations. In more recent activities, if you've been following this, you've seen a lot of the recommendations from the CSB being implemented after being discussed and reported on by the Interagency Refinery Task Force, and this has all led towards drafts that have been provided in late 2015, September 28th, I believe, where you've got proposed updates to CalARP that have included Program 4 requirements. We'll talk more about that shortly. And also CalOSHA has put forth 5189.1, which is a separate regulatory requirement associated with separate regulations that would apply primarily to refineries in California. So a lot of these timelines have brought to fruition a lot of drafts for regulations that are currently being in the process of being promulgated. Timeframes are looking at towards spring 2017 for when a lot of these will take effect. Also, what's been going on with this at the federal level, OSHA has put together a request for information and have been asking for lots of feedback. They've received that feedback and put together several letters where they've clarified how they want to see PSM implemented at the federal level. In addition, on March 14th, the EPA has put forth a draft update for its risk management program regulations. It includes several key elements that we'll talk about shortly. One thing I'd like to mention now, and I'll probably mention about a half a dozen times today, is that these are proposed regulations. It's a draft out for review. It was issued in the Federal Register on March 14th. Comments are due on May 13th. Now, for those of you who realize today's May 12th, that's very soon. I would encourage you, if you do have comments on that, take a good look at the proposed regulations and make sure your comments get in by tomorrow. There's several elements there that have been the topic of discussion by a lot of industrial groups and the regulators, and there's a lot of people that are going to be providing feedback to the EPA on those.